Welcome to Law Subscribed. This is your dedicated news source for all things subscriptions and the law. My name is Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney, and I believe subscriptions can help bridge the access to justice gap and incentivize attorneys to modernize and scale their practice like never before. In this episode, I interview John Strohmeyer. John is the host of his own legal podcast, so I was glad to give him the opportunity to be in the hot seat. In addition to John's innovative practice that uses mostly flat fees and, of course, the subscription model, John provides great insight into client service, which I don't talk enough about on my podcast. Which is why, when you're finished listening to this episode, go subscribe to the 5-Star Counsel podcast. The sponsor of this podcast is 650, a business and employment legal document automation tool. When you're not billing by the hour, efficiency matters, and 650 can help you scale your practice to get high-quality documents drafted in less time. Use the code LAWSUBSCRIBED at 650.com and when being onboarded to get 10% off. Click the link in the show notes called Get Connected with 650 and enter your contact information for me to personally introduce you to 650. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and nothing said is legal, ethical, or financial advice. Without further delay, here's the episode. All right, John Strohmeyer, host of the 5-Star Counsel podcast, in addition to, also being a lawyer, thanks for coming on the Law Subscribed podcast.
Kurbis, it's nice to return the favor. Thanks for joining me on my podcast a couple months ago.
Yeah, we'll see which episode ends up dropping first. But in the meantime, go ahead and tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Excellent. Thanks. Well, first, thanks for having me. I am a lawyer. I'm the proprietor of Strohmeyer Law in Houston, Texas. I help guide my clients through the maze of estate planning, tax, and probate law. The reason, though, that we started talking, my podcast, 5-Star Counsel, is all about answering the question, what would the law firm built by the founders of Disney, Four Seasons, and Amazon look like? What we're looking to do is improve client service delivered by lawyers. There are a lot of ways to do this. Different firms do everything differently, so there's not a hard and fast rule. The first season, which we are well done with at this point, it's a lot of interviews, getting a lot of input. By the time you hear this episode, we will be finished with our season 2, which is me really spending the time to walk through what I call my 5-star method. How do you actually go through, focus on the things that are important, and don't get distracted by really the red herrings that are going to distract you. Things like, well, we should have this great drink menu, or we should have an accessible spa so people can get massages while they get their legal services. There's so much to service. There are also so many ways to get distracted by it. I want to make sure lawyers are putting their best efforts to getting the service right.
And one of those ways is that you've decided, at least with your own practice, as some of the lawyers who've come on your podcast, that subscription model is at least a thing worth trying. So what was it that brought you to the subscription model in the way that you're either currently or trying to implement it within your own practice?
Yeah, so I have implemented it in one version. Obviously, like you, always kind of tweaking and playing with it. Different clients have different needs. And for my estate planning practice, a lot of our clients really don't need a lot of work day to day, week to week, even year to year, just like minor tweaks here and there. Getting them on a subscription mostly didn't feel right to me because I looked at it as, for the young family with 3 to 5 kids, who knows, a couple $1 million in stuff, they may not need any more planning, but they may have a question. My job there is really to be available for them. And most of the times when they have those quick questions, it usually ends up being there's nothing to do beyond answer a question. I look at that personally, the subscription model, just having the, 20, 50, whatever dollars a month, that was more, I'd rather kind of chalk that up to goodwill. For the clients who do actually have day-to-day or, month-to-month needs, those are the ones where I see the value of having them pay on an ongoing basis. And just kind of experimenting with this, I've got clients who have paid as much as $3,000 a month for what we do. I've had clients who've paid, $50, $100 a month. just for shorter, more limited times. One of my clients, we were doing like a bigger retainer on 3-month stretches because we knew we had a lot to do for them. They had the price certainty. They knew they weren't going to be getting any extraneous or surprise bills. And if we could do the work, if we would normally do that work for another client, we were going to do the work for them.
Yeah, the specifics are great, and I'm so glad that you shared it because those are the types of things that my audience needs to hear. But even further back, and maybe this is the former litigator in me that wants to go in chronological order.
Sure.
What was that light bulb moment for you? Was it your own natural genesis of this subscription thing? I'm going to see how I could apply it. Did you see what some of the other attorneys were doing? You and I are in the Hack Your Practice, group on Slack. So was it somebody who posted on there? Like where was it that you were like, I got to try this thing?
I think I'm trying to think. I know one of my earliest experiences would have been with, former guest Kim Bennett when she was on for the first time on the Lawyers podcast. I just happened to be going to Atlanta for the weekend. I was sitting in the airport. I was like, well, what the hell? I'm just going to give her a call. And sure enough, got her while I was sitting at the airport. We ended up having coffee when I was in Atlanta. And I did like the idea, just how do I make it work for my clients? Her clients are business, trademark focused. They're not the same as my clients. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it works for hers because in a business, it's a lot easier to justify. Here, we're going to have continuing questions. What can we do for this? For me, our clients don't necessarily have any new or big changes. And so that's what I struggled with. Do I put everybody on some sort of subscription, or is it really the people who do need to raise their hands more? And at the time, I had not yet gone out on my own. So I was not in a position to set up subscriptions just yet because I was still, chained to the hourly billing model at the old firm. Well, here we are, these small experiments, trying different ones with different clients. I've found what is, at least for now, a good iteration for me. And it's gone through a number of things of, asking clients would they be interested in it. And a lot of them say, well, we're doing a lot of work right now. They don't really need that, but they do want to make sure we've got options and that I'm still here. And so for me, I guess the process has been not everybody needs it, and that's okay. I find, I kind of mentally build in some of that into each representation.
So then, how long would you say approximately that you've been attempting some version of the subscription model?
Pretty much from when I jumped out on my own. I had one client, maybe who came with me from the old firm. They were on a subscription model almost from the get-go. And the reason, they liked the certainty. They knew what I could do for them. They knew what I'd been used to doing for them. And it made it easy for everybody just to know this is all you're going to be on the hook for every month. And if I can do it, I'm going to do it. And if I can't, we're going to get you to the right place for it.
Well, even though your original practice area was different than mine when I went out on my own, it sounds like a lot of a similar story because I actually had a Zoom meeting with Kim early on in the pandemic when I wanted to. I had already thought about launching a subscription, but she came up in the search, and so you had to talk to one of the first subscription attorneys, right?
Of course.
That you got to meet with her in person must have been really great. And then I had one client that I brought over from my other practice when I launched my own firm who started out in a subscription. So I could certainly speak from my own experience, but I think it'd be more valuable to hear yours of what that was like to even have a little bit of a guaranteed monthly recurring revenue when you're starting out on your own.
And that's one of the big things I like right now. It does enforce some discipline on me in budgeting because the clients who use it the most at this point are the clients, like my higher net worth clients, who just have little things. I know when we do a bigger estate plan, not everything's going to get done when they come in to sign for that. Really, when it's hopefully the first and only time, but there are always going to be little forms. There's going to be something. And what I did was break up the engagement. I do everything on flat fees anyway, or at least almost everything. There are a few things that court ordered work or court-related work, we're still going to be hourly on. But just kind of breaking up the engagement and say, well, look, we charged this for normal estate planning. For our bigger estate plans, we're going to keep that same pricing, and we're just going to layer on the next bits. And part of that is breaking out the fee and saying, every month we earn this much as part of your fee, and you don't have to worry about it. It does kind of enforce some discipline on us to make sure that we're talking to you.
So you've talked about sort of the basics of how it's built. You've talked about a little bit about the benefits of it. If there's any more benefits, feel free to mention them. But also, what have been some of the drawbacks that you've experienced about trying to have a subscription model as part of your practice?
Oh, the drawbacks. So obviously, pricing things out can be sticky. You like with anything that is flat fee, there's a chance you're going to get burned because you didn't scope out the amount of work or what they needed. The heavy sigh is there's just nothing you can do. A lot of times you're just going to have to swallow that. And it's a learning lesson, and that's okay. It's like everything else. As I was learning about flat fee engagements and how to develop those with clients, there were definitely ones where, looking back, man, I would have charged far more for certain clients if I had known what it was going to end up involving. And at this point, we know what to charge for it. Like we know more about it. We know kind of where the direction is. So the drawbacks, I don't know if there's anything particular to it beyond you're going to have to bump your head on it. You're going to make mistakes, and there's no way to get good at anything if you're unwilling to fail at it, which is very hard for our sensitive, perfectionist lawyer egos.
So then in terms of pros, cons of prior experience before going off and starting a law practice that includes the subscription model, do you think you need all those years of experience? Or is it maybe something where all those years of experience sort of hamper potential creativity with how to implement it? I mean, where's the give and take? Because I think I am seeing a little bit more of a skew of younger, newer lawyers listening in on the show. And so to them, they're like, well, I don't know. I've never started a law practice before. Maybe I only have 1 or 2 years experience. So what do you need more of?
In my mind, you've got to be an expert in something before, like as you develop it. I would be nervous as a first or second year attorney, pricing out something when you're still learning the practice yourself. Even I can really only speak for my own practice. It took a good solid 3 years to get the basics of estate planning and probate down. And then I've spent the next decade getting really good at it, to being better at it than most other attorneys, because there's a lot to do and there's a lot to know. We want to make sure that we're delivering the best. I want to not, I view myself like my target is to be the top 3 in the city. I'm not going to worry about number 1 or number 2, but in terms of what we're doing, who we're doing it for, we're able to say if we should be on the short list for anybody in our target market. And if we don't get chosen, that's fine. We had somebody today who decided they weren't going to go forward with us, and it's not that we couldn't do the work. It wasn't a good personality fit, and that's okay. So spending those first few years figuring out what you need to know is so important. Now, for a different practice, the subscription may be an easier way in. For mine, it's a bonus on top of an existing practice that we're not billing hourly anymore, thankfully, but making sure we've got the option for the people who are there. I guess to try and land the plane on this answer, it really is. It's an option for people that I see as it's something we develop as we go along. It's not a mandatory, you have to do it this way.
So when it comes to implementing all the aspects of your practice, be it the flat fee side, the subscription side, whatever it is, what's the technology that you're using to help power your practice? And I mean, especially touch on it with regard to the subscription, if it's different than just how you're billing, for your flat fee work. But if it's the same, talk about, that technology a little bit.
Sure. So everything is in Clio, and that is the main hub for where we do billing, tracking IOLTA. We're able to draw out of Clio, CSV files that we can process through different, mostly through Excel. I'm really good at Excel, and so I've been able to build out formulas in Excel. We store them in text expander so that we can just generate those results immediately, but we're able to pull out exactly what we need. Inside of Clio, what are we doing? Well, for subscriptions, we're dating the subscription as of, usually the first of the month. For the clients who are paying for that subscription, we schedule it out. So I know, the big client's going to be paying X dollars on the first of the month from now through the end of the year because they're on a 6-month subscription. For our normal estate planning clients, we generally give them 1 to 3 months free. It's termed a free subscription with the idea of, here, we want you to sign things, but if you change your mind 10 minutes after you get out of here, we're not going to start running the clock. We're not going to bill you if you change your mind. But it gives us something where we can say, look, they signed in July. They have through the end of August to come in and make changes. The end of August, whatever day that is, that's when we're cutting them off. And if they need to do some other changes, we've got to think about it that way. But it really is so we're tracking it all through Clio that way. Outside of Clio, Pipedrive for new clients, tracking that pipeline. Zapier connects everything. Calendly, Smith.ai, Typeform, and VideoAsk for automated intake. And Basecamp is our primary internal hub. So we're trying to eliminate our internal emails altogether. Really, it should only be, somebody sent you this. I got an email from my assistant, or not my assistant, my associate attorney this morning. You need to see this. That's something that should come in an email because that way I can respond directly to the client in an email instead of taking it out of email, putting it in Basecamp, and then I've got to go back to email. We're kind of rolling everything in one place.
So, are you primarily communicating with email with clients? I know I don't use Clio, but there is like a client portal option in Clio, right?
There is. We don't use that. The demographic of my clients, having one more app just isn't viable for them. I do know some people who require that their clients sign up and they require that they use that Clio portal because they want to be able to say, hey, you got this and we know. And okay. Is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, everyone operates differently, right? I happen to require client portals, and it is a little bit of friction, right?
Right.
And so it just depends on what your practice is and the types of clients that you serve at the end of the day. Speaking of your clients, the ones who have opted into this subscription version, what have been their thoughts on it? Have you gotten any good, bad feedback?
The feedback has usually been they liked it because they're the people who are asking, like, how do we make sure we're covered? And so coming up with, this is what we want. I've got one client right now, and they've got a lot of things going on. This morning, we were talking about them selling a large piece of property. What were their tax options? So we had their CPA on the call, able to go through, here's what they're looking at. And I was able to talk with them, talk with the CPA. All of us were together. Now, the CPA is not on the subscription model, but they at least know I'm going to be there. I'm not going to be anywhere else. This is what we're doing, and we're taking care of them. That's ultimately what they want. It's just making sure they know that they're covered.
And is the way your model built on the subscription side is it's like it's going to take 3 months, it's going to take 6 months. Is there like a set scope, or is this something where you are trying to incentivize clients stay subscribed?
Right now, we're not doing much to incentivize them to stay subscribed. Things, like as an estate planning practice, primarily, there really are only things like here and there, and then clients go quiet for a while. Until there's been a few years or some changes, there honestly isn't a whole lot for me to do for them. And I look at it as, could we pay more attention to them? Yes, but the number of clients who actually need me to come in and do something as a lawyer, it's really not going to be there for their estate planning. Now, the reality is they're going to know other people. They're going to know some people who may happen to die. We can be there for other bits of work. And there's just kind of a normal, like, I would rather they remember me, and me incentivizing them to contact me for anything, like, puts the pressure on them to tell me something, while at the same time they know they're not going to get a little piddly bill for 0.2 of an hour because we talked about the Astros game for 7 minutes and then I answered a 3-minute question. Like, that's not a good use of my time or their time.
Right. So you're, of course, touching on one of the best benefits of not billing by the hour, which is you could develop a real relationship with your client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not worried about it. Or they're not worried about getting those little bills that, like, they know we'll touch base with them. We will get them taken care of. And if we're not the right firm, we're going to get them to the right place.
Right. And then another part of this whole model is the ethics of it. Are subscription models even ethical is a question that I get usually from the old guard.
Right.
And so how are you handling, how you hold on to the subscription fee and what you're doing with that to make sure you're complying with at least, your state's ethical requirements?
When I went solo, I pivoted from mostly litigation to a transactional-only practice. I did not have a database of documents to automate. That's why a business and employment legal document database and automation tool like 650 is super useful. I can rely on the quality of the documents in 650's database since they're putting excellent legal minds to work curating and updating their documents and automations over time. When you're not billing by the hour, outsourcing and efficiency matters, and 650 can help you scale your practice to get high-quality documents drafted in less time. Use the code LAWSubscribed at 650.com and when being onboarded to get 10% off. If you're not a business and employment attorney, or you have your own documents that you'd prefer to use, then my next sponsor, Gavel, is the automation tool for you. Gavel allows you to build shareable, client-facing workflow and document automations. In other words, Gavel helps you create a legal practice where attorneys can monetize the value they bring clients in productized form at scale via subscriptions and flat fees. Use the code LAWSubscribed at gavel.io to get 10% off an annual subscription. There's no one right way to automate and scale your practice, but with one or both of my sponsors, 650 and Gavel, you can take your subscription law firm to the next level. Links to both in the show notes. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and so for me, for people who are not on any sort of subscription, the email that they get on a monthly basis is just right now we're not engaged for you. If you got something, we ask you to schedule a call so we can talk about it and figure it out. But right now we have no duty. So that's the people who are not subscribed. The people who are subscribed, we're following up with them, making sure they know what we're doing. The funds that come in, they sit in my IOLTA account until it's time that we have earned them. And we've spelled out, we will earn X dollars on the first of the month, starting the first month after you sign this engagement letter. And that's from now until you run out of this subscription. Whatever we need to do, we will get it done. If we do it, we do it. And if we have to send you out because, I don't do any litigation or criminal defense, your subscription doesn't cover anything we don't normally do.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you bill at the first of the month.
Mm-hmm.
That fee, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it an automatic charge? You don't have to wait for a check to be mailed into you?
I get my fees up front, so I hold it in IOLTA. I know LawPay and Clio can do automatic monthly charges. I am buy once, get the money in there. I'm not going to worry about it later on so that I don't have to worry about AR at any point in the future. Like right now, I think our AR is probably under $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's ideal. That's the place that you want to be in, right? There's so many law firms that are chasing the clients for money.
Yeah, it's as a small business, we live on cash flow, and I don't have the luxury to, allow clients to not pay or slow pay. It's clear up front, like, if you don't pay, we're not working for you. And I've got Will in my office who's in charge of all those invoices. It's his job to deal with that. I don't have to be the bad guy on it.
Right, right. Even though it's your name on the law firm.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. So then on the first of the month, I'm just trying to understand, is that an earned fee at that point, or is it at the end of the month after the work has been complete, then you're transferring that from your IOLTA into your operating account or wherever you transfer it to?
It's at the start of, on the first for that month.
Got it. Okay. So let's dive just a little bit into the subscription model. How is it set up in terms of tiers? You said some clients they pay $3,000 a month, some they pay $50 to $100. Is this you're crafting this based on the client who you're talking to and what they need, or do you have here's A, B, and C options? Pick the one that makes the most sense to you, kind of a thing.
It's mostly the clients who are doing it as part of their normal estate planning. It's built in. It's just, I know what I charge for certain plans. It gets built into that. For the clients who are doing, beyond that, those clients generally we're talking about it. What is that they need? How can we help them? What do they need us to do? And we're going and figuring that out. So it does get customized for what they need. Like the clients who were doing 3,000, they did that for a while. And then, surprise, we got a bunch of work done for them. Now they just have a few little issues here and there. So there's less that's coming in from them every month, but we're doing less for them because they just don't need it. And really the goal for them is to kind of stair step down to where, look, we're here for maybe a phone call or two every month, talk to the CPA, confer with the financial advisors to make sure everything's still on target. They had a lot of work that needed to be done. We've done a lot of cleanup. And, I was the one who said when we went back to renew, we don't need to charge you as much. We can really take a lot of this off because we've got these 4 or 5 little projects that are left.
So I guess what I would call that then is the sliding scale, right?
Yes,
it's a needs-based, needs-based sliding scale. You mentioned a renewal period. Is that set at the onset of engagement? But what that period is going to be when you have that renewal conversation, or is this something you or the client is saying, we accomplished this milestone. Let's talk about it. Is that like a preset renewal period, or is that an ad hoc renewal period?
There's no automatic renewal. It's when it comes up, when you run out of time, we'll kind of have the parting conversation to see, do we need to do anything? I don't know. It's your engagement. What do you see? What are the risks that are out there for you, my client? Mm-hmm. How can we help you? And if we can't, good news and bad news, it doesn't mean you need to pay me right now. And that's okay.
Okay. So I'm still trying to get a sense of this. So if when they sign up and they're on this subscription, is that they're getting a scope of work done, or they're getting amount of hours? Because when you said when you're out of time, and I know how lawyers use the word time could mean so many different things. So tell me what you meant by that.
You're right. So clients, they're not going to come in and you're not going to be just on the subscription without having gone through estate planning with us. Mm-hmm. And that is all fixed fee. It takes the time it takes. There is no billable hours, so it's not as though they have a bank of time they need to use. It's what needs to be done. At the end of that, then the time for the subscription is a monthly basis. We just run it on a month-to-month basis because it's easier to run everything that way for our accounting.
And are your subscribers, you did sort of allude to it earlier, you have a monthly email or some sort of email list for the non-subscribers, and then for the subscribers. Is that like drip campaign, is that separate based upon where someone is on the sliding scale, or you're anywhere on the sliding scale, you get our subscriber email? How does that work?
The subscriber it's all, if you're on there, you're on there, because the email isn't the value of the subscription. It's, how do we swing the hammer for you? And that'll be separate from that. There is a current client's Calendly link for us, mm-hmm. versus the office hours for former clients who are not currently engaged. And it's just, there's way more time. You get to me much faster as a current client than you do as a former client.
Okay. And do you just give the current subscribers, and again, this is just an interesting aspect of the sliding scale. I mean, this is why I think it's a little bit more difficult with the sliding scale to know exactly how much time to give them, right? I mean, certainly you'd probably want to give a $3,000 a month subscriber or even a $200 a month subscriber more than the $50 a month subscriber time on your calendar, right? But right now it's just they could schedule up to 30 minutes and that's okay.
I mean, I find that most clients within 30 minutes, everybody's got their issues settled. Mm-hmm. And it really is up to them. What do you need? There's, do you need more time? I'm happy to give that to the subscribers. The call with a client this morning in their CPA, it was a 45-minute call. We'd only booked it for half an hour, but I wasn't going to say, like your time is up. We weren't done. And it didn't matter what they were paying. They were a current client. We're going to get them taken care of. If we needed more time, and it started running into something, I might have had to say, well, look, let's schedule for another time. But my job is not to make that difficult or put up roadblocks. I'd rather talk to them. And if they think they need an hour to talk through something, we'll find an hour for it.
Right. Well, because here's the thing is I'm trying to think for you. It sounds like you've got while you're doing the heavy lifting of the estate plan, you've got that figured out. That subscription model seems like it's put together. It's a sliding scale based on the amount of work. I don't see that necessarily needs to be changed with very much. I think, however, there's room for developing more business opportunity at the end, mm-hmm. right? So where now they've maybe, you've had that conversation of we've done everything that we were anticipating we needed to do based on our initial consultation over the last however many months we've been doing all this work for you. However, you could stay subscribed, and we're going to lower it down to, instead of X amount, Y amount. Mm-hmm. And here's a Calendly link, and look out for our monthly emails. And whenever you have a legal question, call us. Because is that the sense of what I get for the subscription post the bulk of the estate planning is over?
Right. And the project, it's there's something I'm working on with that I haven't figured out, but I've got about 15 other things that I want to get done firster in the law firm before figuring out that there are people who want to continue to have kind of higher touch, but they don't need the full freight on everything. What does that look like? The answer is I don't know right now. And after I get these other 15 projects done.
Well, John, we've got at least 19 minutes left on this podcast. What are one of those things? Because I mean, there's an opportunity to capture a lot of value there and keep people subscribed, and maybe even if you end up providing more value than you originally planned, increasing what you're charging there at the end of the subscription, right? Now, the obvious thing is, because I do a little bit of estate planning, I'm more general practice subscription, but the obvious thing is, you need an amendment to the trust and the pour over will. Mm-hmm. Things happen. I bought or sold a home, right? Or I had another grandkid, and because I set it up the way that I wanted to, and I didn't listen to my lawyer the first time how to account for future grandchildren. I want people named in my estate plan, right? I want actual heirs named, right? So I need to make a small change like that, right? So those are kind of the obvious changes, right? And so are things like that built into your subscription?
So for new children, we again, it's just a marketing choice. I've said, when you have new kids, we add them for free. You've got enough new bills. I'm not going to take more money from you when you've got a new kid. I'd rather, again, it's a choice on marketing. We're going to make it easy for you to come back, add that new child in, but that's a new free touch for us. Who knows what else they may have that we need to talk about. So that's one of the things where those sorts of things, it's an easy thing for us to do. I would rather give that away because, that's easy. You can get it done anywhere, but it makes them, makes the parents feel good. And if parents feel good about what they've done, we're doing our job.
Right. But then say there's a new asset or something that's acquired that they need specifically listed. They want their lawyer to do it, even though it's kind of, they could just add something, on depending on how you've set up, the estate plan. What if like a low touch, a little thing like that? Is that also something you're giving away for free?
The funding instructions, because here in Texas, rev trusts are okay. Like, you don't have to do it here. Probate is fairly easy. Mm-hmm. So they get funding instructions kind of no matter what. They may not talk to me on a funding question, but just about everybody here who works for me knows how and where things could get funded based on the notes we have for them. So that again, it's those little questions that we don't get enough. Frankly, I don't get enough of them to be worried about having somebody in my office spend 5 minutes explaining something to clients. I'd rather, again, it's a marketing spend for me, not a chance to, it's not something where I see I need to monetize all of it.
And then another thing that some attorneys are doing who have more difficulty taking their practice area and putting it on a subscription. I think of criminal law attorneys, right? Like what, you want a criminal subscribing to you so you could continue to defend them, right? Not exactly the perfect thing, but content creation around things that they will represent their clients on is an area where they could expand monetization opportunities within their practice area in which they're an expert, right? Now that you're on, I've gotten you off, you're not, in jail, you're on probation, and put out content on a subscription to clients that only clients get access to. Here's how you continue to comply with the laws now that I've helped you stay out, right? So it's a way you can still earn something from your past clients. Is there an opportunity like that you could see with the things that you're doing with estate planning? Obviously, content creation is nothing new to you. Of course, your content creation tends to be for the legal profession more so than necessarily your clients specifically. But is there an opportunity there where you could be providing some content to your subscribers as you finish the bulk of their estate plan?
There is, and we do a lot actually on YouTube for our clients. What I found is answering more of our questions there, and then we build that in so their documents end up having a lot of, you may have forgotten what this means. Here's the explanation in YouTube. Here's the explanation in writing. Again, I've made the choice not to try and monetize that content, though we are considering like a paid DIY course for people who would be interested. If you fit within certain guidelines, this is where you can potentially do the work yourself by going on like a LegalZoom or something like that. The risk that would be beyond, or that's not in the top 15 of the projects. That's in the top 30 of projects we're thinking about, only because we've got enough good clients who are coming in on the current model. I'm not so worried about building out something new. I'd rather get better at what we've got going.
I mean, you're already winning with abandoning the billable hour and doing flat fee pricing, right? So,
absolutely.
So in your situation, subscription is gravy. But if you've already made that transition from billable hour to flat fee, adding on a subscription is a lot easier for you to do.
Absolutely.
Because I also don't see on your website that you're necessarily marketing that you offer this subscription, at least on the website.
It's
if it's out there, it's buried maybe through a few clicks.
No, it's not in there just because for right now, it's something I do want to talk to somebody about, or I want to talk to him about it, because it doesn't make sense for everybody.
Yet.
If that makes sense.
Yet. I mean, when you do what what Jess Birkin famously did, where she offers here's option A, here's option B, and one is the subscription, and all her clients chose the subscription over the billable hour. Do you give them here's your flat fee pricing, here's your subscription pricing, and see which one they choose?
I don't, and Jess's model, her practice is for nonprofits that are not going anywhere. There is more of an ongoing basis versus mine, where we're getting pulled in. The bulk of our work is done on the front end, so the bulk of our fee is earned when we make recommendations. Done, like we do the heavy brain work up front, the drafting and signing important, but I purposely value that less because I don't want them thinking, the drafting the documents is 60% of the work. No, 60 to 70% of the work is me sitting there with you and having 13 years of experience doing this and applying that to your situation. So it really is, there's not much of a subscription. Well, it's a one-off project of me working with you to get that in a way that a subscription doesn't cover it.
Right. I mean, look, if business is good, then there's really no need to change it that much, right?
Right.
Of course, that's also the mentality of the billable hour for a lot of law firms, you know, if it has, as they see it. But, you know, you're adopting all these more modern techniques in running a law practice, which, again, you talk about on your podcast, 5-Star Counsel podcast, among, you know, many great guests that you've had. Link to that show in the show notes. But then I do wonder if and maybe this is in the product pipeline, or maybe this is in, you know, those planning stages for those ideas that you had. But for me as a solo practitioner who does some estate planning, now I've chosen to not focus, you know, and specialize as an expert there. But a lot of times, like one type of practice area leads into the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder, you know, if there's opportunities for a subscription or where the model can go with multiple different firms and different practitioners, like a real estate attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I help a client close on a property. Now they're thinking about their estate planning. Right? And so, like, it's natural for now, and they're already subscribing to me, so they're already coming to me for their legal issues. I help them close on a home. Now they're thinking about, you know, at least just doing just like some basic will and advanced medical directive type planning, right? So it's sort of a natural transition, and I'm not representing, you know, millionaires, right?
Right.
So that's the market that I'm targeting. But maybe there's an opportunity for, you know, the law firm down the street from you, John, where they're a real estate firm. You know, I wonder if there could be a subscription. Some sort of, you know, mutual practice, whether it's a referral thing or, I don't know. I mean, you know, we can't really innovate on the business model too much in our profession.
Right. I mean, like for something like that, I would honestly, getting just me into the subscription is hard enough. I know the people I kind of overlap with, getting them to even think about flat fees, much less subscription. I only have so much time in the day, Curtis.
This is what I'm working on, though. This is why I have the podcast. I'm trying to get more lawyers to buy into the business model, so it's easier for what I'm talking about, because I think there is a lot of opportunity to keep people interested. They're already talking to you. You're their lawyer. I guess the question is whether or not you're deciding to position yourself in a very specific niche, and you're only going to tackle things within that. And as it starts to get too much outside of it, well, then maybe it doesn't make sense to have a subscription that people could just call you and talk about whatever. You're their lawyer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, here, I will give you my best first guess on something and then say, you need to go hire the real estate firm to really do this, because they're going to know the tricks. They're going to be able to see around the corners that I can't.
So with that, John, is there anything else that you think that you want me to talk about with you about your subscription model? Anything else you think my listeners should know or think about?
Oh, I mean, just listening to this and kind of having become a subscriber recently, this is an option that all of us should be considering. But like everything, I mean, talk about it on my podcast too. Not everything works for everybody. And, you know, we're all going to have to take those chances. It hurts our lawyer hearts to fail at something, but you're going to, you know, pick up something that's too heavy for you and you're going to drop it on your toe, or, you know, whatever it is, we're all going to make mistakes with it that are not going to be career killing, complaint generating things. We all need to be thinking about this, because there are options. There are clients who do want us to, you know, behave in certain ways, and having them around for them is an option. So we need to, you know, it's our job to bring the mountain to them, not make them come to us.
Yeah, that's great. I don't think we're going to beat that, but I do have one last question for you, which is something of a tradition on the show. I love to see how lawyers answer this. Is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
A hot dog is a sandwich because it is filling between two pieces of leavened bread. John Hodgman is wrong.
All right. So with that, John, obviously links in all the links in the description. But where can listeners follow up with you?
You've got the link. The best thing to do if you enjoyed any of what I've talked about or want to learn more about client service for lawyers, episode 66 of 5-Star Counsel. Otherwise, you can grab me on Twitter. I'm spending probably more time than I should there at John the Lawyer.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks again to 650 and Gavel for sponsoring this show. The best way for others to discover this show is for you to share it with someone you think would find a value from it. Follow me on LinkedIn, since that's where I'm most active on social media, and click the bell towards the top right of my profile to get notified about all of my posts about this podcast and everything else I think is valuable for you to see. To get in touch, Message me on LinkedIn or email kurbis@lawsubscribed.com. All links are in the show notes. Until next time, this is Matthew Kurbis with Law Subscribed.